Hi, welcome to another video. So, there is a new open source project called Gemma Chat, and this one is actually pretty interesting because it is basically a local vibe coding app for your Mac powered by Google's Gemma 4. And when I say local, I mean actually local. No API keys, no cloud model, no monthly subscription. And after the initial model download, no internet needed either. You can literally be on a plane, in a place with no Wi-Fi, or just working on private code that you do not want to send to some random server, and you can still ask it to build stuff for you. So let's get right into it. Now, the funny thing here is that this project is open source on GitHub under Amar Reshi's account, and Amar is from the Google AI Studio side. He leads product design for AI Studio, and he has been one of the people pushing vibe coding and agentic workflows at Google. But the even more interesting part is that the official Google Gemma account is also posting about it, almost like this is their own thing. They posted something like offline vibe coding with Gemma 4, and then described it as an open source Electron app running entirely on your Mac through Apple's MLX framework. So it is not like this is some random wrapper that nobody at Google noticed. It is built around Gemma 4, it comes from someone inside the Google AI ecosystem, and then Google Gemma is basically showing it off on socials, which is honestly pretty cool to see. Now, just to be clear, Gemma Chat itself is not presented as a polished official Google desktop product. It is an open source proof of concept. But it really does feel like Google is saying, look, this is the kind of thing Gemma 4 can do locally, and that is a much more exciting pitch than just another benchmark chart. So, what is Gemma Chat? Gemma Chat is an Electron app that runs Gemma 4 natively on Apple Silicon Macs using MLX. If you have used tools like Bolt, Claude Artifacts, Lovable, AI Studio Build Mode, or even Replit-style AI builders, the idea will feel familiar. You type what you want to build, the model writes files, and you get a live preview of the app on the side. The difference is that this one is running on your own laptop. You can ask it to build a landing page, a small game, a Pomodoro timer, a markdown previewer, a little dashboard, or a basic web app. It can write HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and multi-file projects into a local workspace. As it writes, the preview updates in real time so you can actually watch the project come together. That is the main thing that makes this feel cool. It is not just a chat box where the model dumps code and you copy-paste it into VS Code. It has a build mode, a file workspace, a live preview, and an agent loop. So, the model can create files, edit files, read files, run commands, and then continue based on the result. And because everything is local, your prompts, your code, your conversations, and your generated files stay on your machine. For people who care about privacy, client work, internal prototypes, or just not paying API bills, that is a big deal. Now, there are basically two modes inside the app. The first one is build mode. This is the exciting mode. You ask it to build something and Gemma acts like a local coding agent. It writes files into a sandbox workspace, and the right side of the app shows the preview, the code, and the file list, so you can go from prompt to actual little working app without touching the terminal. The second one is chat mode. This is more like a regular local AI assistant, but it also has tools. It can use web search, fetch a URL, do calculations, and run bash commands. Obviously, web search and URL fetching need internet, so the offline magic mostly applies to the model and the local coding workflow. But the fact that the chat mode also has tools makes it more useful when you're online. The app also supports model switching. You can choose between different Gemma 4 variants depending on your machine and what you're doing. There is the smaller E2B model, the recommended E4B model, and then bigger options like the MOE model and the 31B dense model. The smaller models are for speed and lighter machines, while the bigger ones are for stronger reasoning if your Mac has enough memory. According to the repo, the E4B model is around 3 GB and is the recommended balance of speed and capability. The smaller E2B model is even lighter, and the bigger models need more RAM, so if you have an 8 GB Mac, you probably start with the smaller ones. If you have 16 GB or 32 GB of unified memory, then you can start playing with the heavier options. And this is where Gemma 4 itself matters. Google DeepMind released Gemma 4 as their most capable open model family so far. So the model itself is coming from the engineers and researchers at Google. They are positioning it for advanced reasoning, agentic workflows, code generation, long context, multimodal inputs, and local deployment. So instead of Gemma just being another small chat model, Google is clearly trying to make it useful for real developer workflows. And Gemma Chat is basically a showcase of that. It takes the local model, gives it tools, gives it a coding workspace, gives it a live preview, and turns it into a mini offline coding environment. So instead of Google just saying Gemma 4 can do agents, this project shows one version of what that can look like. Now, one of the coolest details is how the app works under the hood. It uses MLX-LM to run the model weights, But after that, the model is on your machine. The app then starts a local MLX server and streams the model output into the Electron interface. In build mode, it uses an XML-style tool protocol. So instead of relying on complex function calling, the model emits simple tool actions like write file, edit file, read file, list files, run bash, and open preview. That is actually a smart choice for smaller local models because simple text formats are often more reliable than fancy function calling. The repo even says that small models handle XML more reliably than JSON function calling, and honestly that makes sense. Another nice detail is live file streaming. As the model generates a file, the app can write partial file content to disk every few hundred milliseconds, and the preview reloads while the model is still typing, so visually it feels like the app is being built live in front of you. This is the kind of thing that makes demos look really good. You ask for a Chrome Dino-style game, or a retro snake game, or a landing page, and then you watch files appear and the preview come alive. It is very much the vibe coding experience, but with no cloud model behind it. There is also voice input, which is quite cool. It uses local speech to text through Whisper running in the browser with transformers.js, so you can talk to the app and have it turn that into a prompt. Again, that fits the whole local first story really well. Now, let's talk about how I would demo this. First, I would open the app and show the model selector. I would probably choose Gemma 4E4B because that is the recommended option. Then I would go into build mode and ask it to create something simple like a retro Chrome Dino game in a single page with keyboard controls. Then we wait a bit. Those are the kinds of things smaller local models can actually handle pretty well. You are not asking it to refactor a giant production code base. You are asking it to build small web apps, prototypes, and demos. And to be honest, that is exactly where a tool like this makes sense. I do not think this is replacing Cursor, Claude Codex, or Gemini 3 Pro for serious production work. A local 3 GB model is obviously not going to be as strong as the best cloud models. But for offline prototypes, toy apps, quick landing pages, demos, private experiments, and student projects, this is a really good direction. And the cost angle is also important. There is no subscription here. The app is open source, the code is on GitHub, and the model runs locally. So you are paying with your hardware instead of your API bill. If you already have an Apple Silicon Mac, that is a very attractive deal. You download the model once, and then you can keep using it without burning credits every time you ask it to change a button color. The app itself is under the MIT license, and Gemma 4 is released by Google under Apache 2.0, so the licensing story is also pretty friendly compared to a lot of AI tools. That matters because local AI is not just about saving money. It is also about control privacy and being able to build without asking a hosted service for permission every time. Now, setup is also fairly straightforward, at least if you're comfortable with developer tools. You need macOS on Apple Silicon, Python and Node 20 or newer. Then you clone the repo, install the dependencies with npm install, and run npm run dev. On first launch, it handles the MLX setup and model download. The repo also has a command to build a distributable Mac app, so you can generate a DMG if you want. That said, it is still a developer project. It is not a one-click App Store app yet, so if you're a complete beginner, you might run into setup issues. But for developers, it should be pretty manageable. Now, there are some limitations. First, this is Mac-focused because it relies on Apple's MLX framework. So if you're on Windows or Linux, this specific experience is not really for you right now. Second, the first model download needs internet. So the offline part starts after setup. That is not a problem, but it is worth saying clearly. Third, local models are still local models. They can be slower, they can make mistakes, and the smaller ones are not going to match the strongest cloud coding models. So do not expect it to build a full SaaS app perfectly in one prompt. Fourth, some tools inside chat mode, like web search or fetching a URL, obviously need internet. So if you're fully offline, you should think of this mostly as a local chat and local coding app, not a full web-connected research assistant. But even with those limitations, I really like the idea, because the big promise here is not just another AI coding app. The promise is that open models are getting good enough that you can have a useful coding agent on your own laptop. No account, no API key, no server. And that is why the Google angle is so interesting. First, Google made Gemma 4, then their team member from Google AI Studio World open-sourced this app, and then the Google Gemma account is posting it as an example of offline vibe coding with Gemma 4. So it almost feels like Google is using a community-style open-source repo to show the future of local AI coding. And if that is the direction Gemma is going, I am all for it. Because we need more of this. We need more local AI tools that are actually useful, not just chat boxes, not just model demos, real workflows, a coding workspace, file writing, live preview, model, switching, voice input, and local privacy. That is the stuff that makes open models matter to normal developers. Overall, Gemma Chat is not perfect, and it is clearly still a proof of concept. But as a demo of what Gemma 4 can do on a Mac, it is pretty awesome. It shows that local vibe coding is not just a meme. it is slowly becoming a real thing. If you have an Apple Silicon Mac, I think this is absolutely worth trying. Start with the smaller Gemma 4 model, build a few simple apps, test the iteration flow, and see how far it gets. Even if it is not your main coding assistant, it is a really fun look at where local coding agents are headed. And honestly, the fact that you can build a small web app with an open model on your laptop without Wi-Fi is just wild. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.